Welcome to the Fiercely Visible CEO podcast. I'm your host, Steph Wharton. Join me as we dive into how to become a widely in-demand CEO that prioritizes balance between life and business, isn't afraid of making the scary decisions that get you results you actually care about, and unapologetically breaks the rules to build the business and life of your dreams. Something I haven't done yet, but I really want to start doing more of, is to talk to you about visibility. As you know, the podcast is all about being fiercely visible. It's about being fiercely yourself, and it is about breaking the rules in order to build a life that you are obsessed with, a life where you are actually living your life as opposed to being stuck working inside your business 24/7, right? And visibility is one of those things, especially when you look at my signature visibility framework within visibility as a whole. That's where the magic really happens. That's where I've seen the most success inside of my business. And I want to start sharing more of that with you because it has made such a drastic change and difference inside of my business compared to how I was operating before to how I am operating now, that I want to be able to share some of that with you so you can start to experience similar shifts and similar results, because it is honestly going to blow your mind away. Like, I used to work ridiculous amounts of hours. While I was doing that, working full days, whether it was 9 to 5 or even 10 hours, 12 hours, I started to slowly notice that where I was seeing the most impact and the best kind of results without putting in more hours and more energy and more time and more hard work, they all had something in common. And when I started to notice those trends, I realized I could actually reverse engineer how I had experienced the best types of success in my eyes in order to build out a brand new strategy that nobody was really utilizing in the online space. And specifically, building out a strategy that allowed me to work within my zone of genius and that allowed me to attract people to me and my business without putting more time and effort in. So while I was doing that, I'll share some of the examples if I can think of them right now. So essentially, a couple of scenarios that were coming up is people were reaching out, and as far as I could tell, they were reaching out of the blue. So I had no idea where they were coming from, but they were coming to me very confident. And they were reaching out and flat out inquiring about offers. They were flat out just applying. And then whenever we would talk, the majority of those people that were reaching out, seemingly out of the blue, would then convert very easily. So here I'm looking at what's happening, all these different mini scenarios. And I'm like, why is it so easy? And where the hell are they coming from? And how is this happening? So that's when I started to reverse engineer everything, right? So I started to audit my business in all these different scenarios and trying to connect the dots until I could figure out, okay, how did they hear about me? Where did they find me? Why was there such a powerful connection where they felt called to reach out, to apply, to DM me? And then how did that lead to a conversion? So this is where my signature visibility framework started to take more shape. And what I started to realize is that every time that I was exposing myself outside of social media and that I was collaborating with people and I was being very intentional about it at that, that's when people would find out, they would learn about me for the very first time, but they would be magnetized to my energy. Right? I call that step one of the signature visibility framework. I call that the fierce leadership stage. So this is where you're truly embodying leadership. You're showing up confidently. You're owning your space in the industry, in your field, and you're showing up as that person that has the solution that people are looking for. So when people hear you speak or they consume your content, they get to know you, that one instance can be so powerful and memorable that they feel called to now, quote unquote, they're funneled into your actual platforms. So this is where they find you on social media. Perhaps they land on your website, on landing pages. Perhaps they stumble across, let's say, a lead magnet, something that you have for free, or just flat out your paid offers. And that's where they started to apply, to purchase. Like I was experiencing instances where people would apply for one-on-one coaching and they'd say that they wanted to invest within the next year, but they would end up investing within a week or two, right? And this was just after a couple moments after getting to know me and finding out that I even exist. I was having instances where people were purchasing passive offers. I had some templates, some like mini courses, and they were purchasing these products right after they had learned about them. And these were products, this is the part that was just like blowing my mind, that had been just like sitting there collecting dust on my website. Nobody was buying them unless I was actively promoting them. So it was just like, how is this happening that people are finding about me one day? Then they're going ahead and they're deciding to either apply, purchase, or follow whatever. And how come is it so freaking easy? So let me break down the framework for you. I'm going to do a simplified version because otherwise we could be here for like literally like 6 hours. So the framework, it starts with leadership. We talked about that a little bit already. It then, step 2, takes into consideration genuine relationships. And I say genuine because I hate this pressure that we put on ourselves to have more followers, have more leads, more sales, more money, all this stuff, right? Like, yes, more money is freaking amazing, but we're not all looking to be millionaires. If we are, that's totally freaking cool. Like, that's incredible. Go you. But that is not always the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal, I find what most people have in common is that they're trying to build their life and their dream life at that. So when we look at that, a lot of it stems from relationships. And when it comes to the framework, relationships are at the core of it, because when you get to know your audience, you get to know people. One, you make friends. Two, you start to listen, you start to care, you start to serve them with more intention, you start to create content in a way / in hopes to be able to better help them, right? And through all that, you start to build deeper and more meaningful relationships that, one, yes, can lead to sales, but two, can lead to collaborations, which is the coolest thing. Sometimes you're so stuck / hung up on the fact that you're looking to make a sale that you miss out on all these amazing opportunities to collaborate and partner up with other people in a strategic way in order to gain access and exposure to their audience. These are all new people that you currently do not have access or are not in contact with, who are potential leads, they're potential clients, but not if you do not gain that first introduction, the first exposure to them. So when you have that leadership, when you collaborate with people and gain access to new audiences, and then that exposure leads to the people funneling back into your business, that's essentially, in a very messy and like jump around way, is the core blueprint of my signature visibility framework. It is, when we look back at how I've reverse engineered these specific scenarios that I had been experiencing inside of my business, it's exactly how I was able to attract over $22,000 by being interviewed in one podcast. That is one interview, 1 hour of exposure that led to multiple 5 figures in sales, all out of the blue. These were all sales stemming from people finding out about me / quote unquote meeting me in that podcast interview, deciding to follow me, deciding to apply, purchase, DM, all amounting to 5 figures in sales. And that's just one of those instances, whether it's podcasting, whether it's guest trainings, whether it's speaking in summits. Like, there's over 30 different ways to collaborate with people in order to get in front of the right audiences and attract them to you in a way that has them feeling called to reach out and to inquire about your offers. It is so freaking amazing. And it is one of the key things that has allowed me to taper down the amount of hours and just the amount of times that I show up, and has allowed me to stop relying on social media so heavily, so that instead I have the flexibility to pick and choose how I want to show up, because I know that visibility and collaborations and strategic partnerships are doing a lot of the heavy lifting for me. There was something else I think I really wanted to share about this. Right. I was watching a show. I've been watching this show for like several weeks now. If anybody's interested, it's called Chicago PD, and it's basically a cop show. And that series has multiple series and episodes, but it also has sister or brother or whatever related series, right? So you have Chicago PD, you have Chicago Fire, and then Chicago Med, I believe. So those are three completely different shows. They're almost like sister shows. And they have different characters, etc., different storylines, all the good stuff. However, they oftentimes do crossover shows. So what will happen is you'll have a storyline from Chicago Fire weave into Chicago PD. So all of a sudden you have the characters from the other show coming in and they're all buddies, and all of a sudden you have one crossover episode under one series, and then part 2 is likely happening in the other series, right? So what's happening here, I'm sure you've seen this with like other TV shows, right? What's happening here is they're quote unquote collaborating. So if you only watch the cop show, now you are being called to watch part 2 of the crossover episode under the, let's say, the fire show. So where all the fire people are. I call them fire people, like firemen, firewomen, you know the drill. So now you're jumping over in the middle of a season in a different series, and you're catching up on the rest of the show, which gives you exposure to the new characters and the new storylines. And through that exposure, if it's a good freaking episode, you're now like, holy shit, I like the fire show. I'm going to start watching Chicago Fire from scratch. And then there's a crossover to Chicago Med. And you're like, holy freaking shit, the surgeons on there are so freaking cool. I need to watch that too. So now you went from watching one show to watching 3 different shows and binging like a million freaking seasons. That's exactly what's happening here through my signature visibility framework. You're strategically gaining exposure, aka you're strategically getting in front of the right audiences at the right time through the right partnerships, in order to get all those viewers, those communities, hooked on what you have to say, that they come back and they binge you. And then they want to work with you. They want to be your friends. They want all the freaking things because your brand is such a fucking vibe that they're like, I need to work with you. And that's exactly what happens. I can't wait to share more about this. Like, this is exactly what I teach inside of the Fiercely Visible CEO workshop. It is a 4-week workshop. It's so much freaking fun. Like, everybody that goes through this honestly loves it because it opens up this big ass door where they no longer have to rely so heavily on social media. Like, it's no longer about having to create captions and feed posts and showing up on stories 24/7. You now have a way to get in front of like thousands of people who are already pre-vetted as being being good representatives of who you're trying to work with. So when you get in front of them, they're the right people. They're already looking for the types of solutions that you provide. So it's the right time, the right place. It is frigging magic, like I said, and stay tuned because I'll be sharing a lot more down the line. That's it for this week's episode of the Fiercely Visible CEO podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at StephWharton_ for more valuable content. And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts.